Hi to all viewers! Welcome on the Equipe 22 channel. It is 10:33 p.m. and today we'll talk about sport and globalization. Firstly, we'll talk about globalization, secondly, the localization, and third, the globalization. Localization, globalization, glocalization and globalization. Today, our team, l'Equipe 22, will represent you the four types of management in the theme of Petanque, in the world and in the documentary. Firstly, I will present you the four types of management. The best now is obviously the local. Something local can be defined as something specific to a place or region. It's specific to it. An example outside of sport would be, for example, the Welsh in the north of France. A local sport is a sport that brings together an entire region, its units. It's a discipline that is an integral part of the culture of place it represents. Now, I will define globalization for you. Since the 2000s, we have seen more and more the local model move to a global model. There is a cultural diffusion thanks, for example, to the media, but also to the big company like Coca-Cola, which is the best known example. Above all, there is a globalization of sport with a lot of social cultural exchange, such as match broadcast intentionally, or for example, the soccer, which is the most globalized sport. Then, I will talk to you about glocalization. It is a process of adapting a product, practice, or an object that can be described as global to a local population. Robertson said in 1992 the tailoring of local product and service to suit particular cultural taste. For example, McDonald's adapts its recipes according to the cultural specifics where the franchise is installed. The best sentence to understand this is "Glocal thinks global, act local." To end my introduction, we are going to talk about globalization. We can define it as the reverse of glocalization, because it's thinking local and acting global. American football is an example in the sport with its practice at the local level, but its diffusion and its marketing in the world. Now, I will give the floor to our journalist in the field, Enzo, who studied Petanque in its global aspect.
After Roman's reminder on the definition of globalization, I will show you how the globalization of Petanque took place. The triggering event was the launch of the Petanque World Championships by the Belgians, which in 1956 would later lead to the creation of the International Petanque Federation. Petanque will arrive in Asia and more particularly in China, where it will become a national sport with real local diversification. Practice to train for basketball, Petanque has turned Asian culture upside down. In 1988, Petanque was feminized with the creation of the World Championships for women. Finally, in the USA, Petanque arrived thanks to the FPUSA association where French people come to acculturate the Americans. Competitions to commemorate July 14 are organized there every year, and the spectators and participants are more and more numerous and come from the four corners of the world. Petanque is also developing in Africa. It was included in the African Games in 2015.
Thank you, Enzo, for your intervention on the global. I'm Nicolas David, journalist on Equipe 22. Now, I'm going to explain you the local aspect of Petanque in France, as well as its different specificities. I'm going to present you the different sports that were born in different regions of France. Let's start with the basic of Petanque. This very widespread practice was born in France in 1907, thanks to its ancestor, the Provençal game. Petanque is a sport played and practiced by many French people all year round. There are more 6,000 clubs in France and more than 300,000 licensed players. Different competitions are organized every weekend in the different French departments. The most important competition are the departmental, regional, and national championship, which take place once a year in different cities. The different practices that I'm going to present you are registered in the inventory of the intangible cultural heritage of France as shown by GovCulture. The first practice that we would like to present is the boule de fort. This sport is practiced in the Val de Loire. It was created in the 17th century and is practiced with wooden or synthetic iron rigid balls. The balls are not straight, so they take time to reach their destination. We are now going to look at the Breton ball, which appeared in the 19th century. This sport is played outdoor on clay. This sport is also played in 30 points. The balls are made of synthetic resin and a little bigger than normal. Let's move on to square balls. This sport is played outdoor. It's similar to Petanque. It's played in the south of France and was created in Cannes in 1979. It's a more playful practice than Petanque. It is played on the slope on a flat surface. The rules are identical to Petanque. The balls are square and made of wood. We are going to present the Provençal, also called the long. It takes place in a mobile way on the ground of 50 to 20 meters. It originates from the south of France and is played on a large square to answer the playing distances. You can therefore see that Petanque has been declined in different practices according to its localization in France.
Hello everyone, I'm a reporter from L'Équipe du Soir. Today I will introduce to you globalization of Petanque. First, globalization is a combination of globalization and localization. In marketing, globalization means that after the product has been internalized, it is adapted to a specific target market. In other words, think about globalization and act localization. Take Petanque as an example. The history of banditchery Petanque seems to begin in the mid-1950s. The practice was introduced by French soldiers of Tamis origin back in their hometown. They brought with them the rules and the necessary equipment to practice this game. The locality will gradually learn about this activity and then make it their own. Following the indigenization of Petanque, some French people of Tamis origin are relocated to really get involved in this activity. Several strategies from distancing the activity or the way of practicing it are developed by the French of Tamis origin to distinguish themselves from Indian players. Therefore, Petanque is constantly involved and integrating into the local characteristics and the culture in India. In addition, Petanque is also booming in China. Now, there are 20,000 Petanque players. The Chinese Bowling Federation hopes to double that number through the World Championships. The federation is also counting on the school to introduce the youngest to bowls. Nearly 200 colleges now give Petanque lessons to their students. Gao Wei, the professor university. His goal is to make Petanque as an Olympic sport as at the 2024 Paris Olympics. Although China started playing Petanque much later than France or Italy, the country is already a challenge in Asia, a phenomenal progression, which has encouraged the government of several Chinese provinces to invest heavily in bowls. Finally, Petanque as a sport full of fun. is constantly evolving and integrating with local sports in other countries and regions.
Petanque has become a popular sport worldwide and its diffusion is constantly evolving through the multiplication of competition around the world. The trigger element of its craze is the launch of the World Championships with subsequently an international federation, championships in all continents and confederation. Petanque has been able to diversify locally in France, and in turn, Petanque has diversified abroad. Petanque has even become a national sport in China and Thailand and is developing enormously in the USA. To conclude, we can say that Petanque has a bright future.